The Nigerian Exchange Limited has penalized 30 companies for violating corporate governance rules by not timely filing financial statements, resulting in a cumulative fine of 230 million naira. Now, the companies, as per NGX regulations, must submit quarterly and yearly financial reports properly. Notable fines include 60.7 million naira for C&I Leasing, 24.8 million naira for Presco, and 18.6 million naira for Ardova. Now, to talk more about this on the show, I'm being joined by Chukwu, who is the CEO, Cowry Asset Management. Johnson, it's nice to have you around.
Thank you, Lekan, for having me. Good morning.
Now, the exchange has fined 30 companies for not filing their results as at when due. Now, number one, is that number staggering for you? You begin to wonder why we have that number of companies violating regulations, stipulated regulations, when it comes to the rules of engagement. How do you see it?
Yeah, when I saw the report, I was actually worried. Worried because some of the most prized or highly valued stocks were all involved. And the question I asked myself, is there anything that is onerous in the post-listing requirements of NGX? Because that's the only way you can explain this. Are we dealing with a situation where the environment is making it impossible or difficult for these companies to complete their half-year or quarterly reports and file on time? There must be something that is wrong, because if you look at the list includes all the major banks, all the blue chip, the most valued stocks of in the industry. And I was wondering why, if it was a positive, one would have said that those who are listed among the 30 are in good company. But it's a bad thing. And the question is that how could these companies that are known to at least at the minimum maintain reasonable level of corporate governance be unable to file their quarterly returns as to be penalized? So I think we need to dig deeper and find out if there's anything onerous in the post-listing requirements.
Johnson, sir, while having to dig deeper, I'm thinking probably we could just look at it broadly or generally. From your own perspective, why do you think because I know that you are a player and you are also vast in things like this. Generally, why do you think a company would not file its results quarterly or yearly? Is there something they're trying to hide? Are we having some economic challenges that is making it hard for them to have a calculated or a documented operations that they need to have tendered to the regulatory bodies? What do you think could have been amiss?
Okay, a couple of things I know that normally happen is that if for the back-end industry, the banks need to get approval of the central bank before they file their returns. So they first have to go prepare their quarterly return before they go to the public. They must get approval of the central bank. That's for the banks. For other companies, a lot of issues could delay completion of an audit, particularly full-year accounts that need to be audited. Management account does not need to be audited, so there shouldn't be any reason why you have to delay for your auditors to file the management account. So if a company is finding it difficult to file a management account, one, it could be dealing with some financial reporting challenges, possibly issues around the exchange rate devaluation or revaluation losses. Because, like I said, the number of institutions or companies involved now is pointing to something else. And I suspect many of the companies may have been contending with how to deal with the revaluation gain or revaluation losses they may have suffered within that period, or what rates to apply to convert their foreign currency assets or liabilities to determine the revaluation gain or losses. So I think that there must be something beyond that. But ordinarily, in the absence of any extraneous factor, a company delaying in filing returns is dealing with obvious financial reporting challenges, which could also mean that the company is having issues on its financial state position. That means the company may have been making losses and therefore finding it difficult to report those losses, or the company is disputing its account with its auditors and auditors are refusing to sign off on accounts. So all symptomatic of a challenged financial performance. That's ordinarily what leads to delay in general terms of companies filing their returns with NGX.
I'd like to also further elaborate on post-listing rules. How important are those? And for these companies that are affected, is there a leeway is there an opportunity, a window for them to escape these penalties? Or maybe there's just an opportunity for them to file the returns if that opportunity is granted to them?
No, you have to bear in mind that the penalties are a continuous penalty. It is based on the number of days you delay, you are late in filing your returns. So if they don't file the returns, the penalties will keep building up. And which is why some of them, the companies you mentioned, are relatively small, but then they have higher penalty. Because obviously their delay is longer than those bigger companies. So it's something that the companies must quickly attend to make sure that they are, whatever is the constraining factor, they address it and have their accounts filed with NGS. If they don't, they're going to continue to build up the penalty, and it could get to a point where it could be backbreaking. In terms of what companies can do to make sure they file on time, they need to strengthen their financial reporting unit so that their financial reports come out timely. Whatever accruals or amortization they need to do them on time. Whatever revaluation of assets they need to do them on time. And this is, for instance, more companies track their income on a daily basis. So it shouldn't be at the end of every quarter you now begin to compute your income. We've gone beyond that. Technology has made it possible for companies to, at the end of the business month, when they run end of month, they have their P&L and balance sheet. Unless if there are other extraneous factors that need judgment, valuation, they ordinarily should be able to file immediately.
Johnson, according to reports, 10 out of these 30 companies attracted 183.5 million naira. That's representing about 79.5% of the total fines. And some people are saying that looking at the infraction and the penalties handed out to these companies, there's a little bit of high-handedness on the part of the regulator. Do you also see it in that light, or you would say that this is apt and this would also serve as deterrent for other companies that might want to violate the rules?
Well, there's no high-handedness. Like I said, once you want to list, you also abreast of the post-listing requirement. And the penalties are based on the number of days that you are late in filing your returns. So if you are late for 90 days, your penalty will be higher than those who are late for 30 days. So there's no issue of high-handedness. Before you list, would have subscribed to pre-listing and post-listing requirements, and which I believe that all the companies have all subscribed to. So we shouldn't shift the attention to issue of high-handedness. We should focus on why are the companies not filing. Are they extraneous factors affecting them? If they are not, and they have to do with weakness of management, the sanctions should actually be imposed. And I think the director should pick it up. Ordinarily, when you are sanctioned by a regulator, it's reported in your financials. It has to be reported in the audited financial statement for that year. The board, it has to be brought to the attention of the board and brought to the attention of the general meeting. And then the management should be held accountable for exposing the company to such embarrassing penalty as far as financial loss.
Johnson, thank you very much. Now, this is what we're going to do. We'll go on a short break and we'll return to talk about the Nigerian Stock Exchange. All right, so just stay with us. We'll be right back. You're watching Business Edge on News Central Television, and yes, we have been looking at the 13 companies that were actually penalized by the Nigerian Stock Exchange for infractions. And I have been talking to Johnson Chukwu, who is the CEO, Cowry Asset Management. So, Johnson, back to you now. Let's look at the Nigerian bourse. Of course, this year, we've seen losses in some areas. We've seen profits. It's been a little bit bullish. It's been a little bit bearish. And we've seen that fluctuation. We've seen the listings too that has affected stocks and all that. So if you are to generally assess the activities of the Nigerian Stock Exchange this year, how would you describe it in terms of capitalization, liquidation, and operations?
Well, I think the market has done extremely well. If you talk of capitalization, today we're talking about 38.9% gain, over 38 trillion naira in market capitalization. And then we are talking of an index of more than 71,000 basis points. So for you to talk of by the end of November, you're talking of a market gain of about 38.9%. That's quite impressive. And it's, we may end up this year with being among the highest performing bosses in the world. And like I said, we have reached the 71,000. At some point, we were looking at 70,000. Now we are above 71,000 points. and you are talking about a market capitalization of more than 38 billion trillion naira. So on the balance, I would think, of course, in a market gain of this nature, you will still see some laggards. There's no way every stock will gain. But what we're even seeing is that there are even stocks that have gained beyond what one may think is the intrinsic value, which simply means that investors are scrambling for most instruments, irrespective of their valuation or their underlying fundamentals. On the balance, I think the market has done even beyond what it should have done.
So in about 30 seconds, Johnson, do you think that would be enough to woo more investors into the market? Because some investors are actually skeptical about the operations, government policies, a different trajectory that we are seeing in terms of policy direction, both in the market, the CBN and all that. And they're a little bit skeptical about wanting to put their money on stocks. So with what you've said now as regards an appreciable growth in Nigeria's bourse, do you think they will still be willing to plunge their money in?
If you look at what has happened in the market and the fact that we've seen some counters gain beyond their intrinsic value, it then means we've actually succeeded in attracting retail investors who are not discerning, who may not even have the capacity to do thorough analysis of the fundamentals of the instruments. And I think looking at the gain we've seen so far, I did mention that the market has gained 38.9% so far at the end of close of business on Friday. So clearly, there's no other instrument in the country that has that kind of yield. It's the only instrument group that has outperformed the inflation rate. Inflation rate at 7.33%. At 38.9%, we're far above the inflation rate. The yield on fixed income instruments is far below that. Even if you look at the OMO yield that came at the print of close to 20% at the last auction, it's still far below 38.9%. So clearly, but what will happen is that the same investors are very savvy. They will make choices based on stocks with fundamentals, while as retail investors may adopt the sheep syndrome and just go to the market and be asking for what are the low value stocks, low cap stocks that they want to take. But interesting, many of the stocks that, like I said, low cap stocks have done so well this year, irrespective of their underlying fundamental.
Johnson Chukwu, CEO, Cowry Asset Management. It was nice engaging you this morning.
Thank you for having me.